Welcome back. You're listening to another story from Echoes of Family, and this is how the story today began.
My name is Taylor. I'm 32 years old. 3 years ago, I walked away from my family. No calls, no holidays, nothing. I thought distance would hurt less than being invisible. But this Thanksgiving, I came back. I thought success, money, and stability would finally buy me respect at that table. I was wrong. The moment my mother opened her mouth, I knew nothing had changed. And when I finally spoke, the words that came out of me burned everything down. What happened that night shattered everything I believed about family. Growing up as the youngest of 4 didn't mean being cherished. It meant being the extra, the afterthought. My mother, Martha, had her favorites and never hid it. Sandra, the oldest, was the golden child. Married young, 3 kids living nearby. To Mom, Sandra embodied everything a woman should be. Devoted, reliable, present. Beverly, the middle sister, became a nurse. Mom bragged endlessly about her long shifts, her patience, her groceries for the house, service she could display like a medal. And Ronald, the only son, the so-called prince, dropped out of college? Practical. Moved back home? Smart financial planning. When he married, Mom threw the backyard wedding of the century. His failures became stories. Mine became proof I didn't belong. Then there was me, Taylor, the dreamer. I wanted more than our small Ohio town could offer. Marketing, campaigns, something bigger than myself. Mom pursed her lips whenever I spoke. That's nice, honey. But don't forget what really matters. Family. Every milestone was undercut. College degree? When will you give me grandchildren? First job? Too far from home? Promotion? Money isn't everything. It didn't matter what I achieved. It wasn't what she valued. When I announced I was moving to Chicago, silence filled the dinner table. Sandra called me selfish. Beverly said there were jobs closer. Mom hugged me goodbye like she was already mourning a daughter she refused to understand. Only Ronald smiled. In Chicago, I tried to keep the connection. Sunday calls about my tiny apartment, and first projects quickly shifted back to Sandra's kids. Beverly's patience, Ronald's work. When Mom finally asked about me, it was out of politeness, not interest. The calls dwindled. Weekly turned to monthly, then just birthdays. Until one day I realized I hadn't spoken to my mother in 6 months, and she hadn't noticed. It hurt too much to sit at that table and be invisible, so I stopped showing up. No more holidays, no more pretending. But even far away, I still carried their voices. Reminders that I was always too much or not enough. But distance doesn't erase hunger. For love, for approval. Chicago was lonely at first, but I buried myself in work. Promotions came quickly. Within 3 years, I was marketing director at a Fortune 500 company. A 6-figure salary, a team of 15, campaigns that made headlines. On paper, I was everything my family swore I wasn't. Successful, stable, important. So when Mom called that November, her voice softer than I remembered, hope stirred. She said Sandra's kids asked about their aunt. She said it would mean everything to have us all together again. For the first time in years, I believed maybe I finally had a place. I went all out. First-class flight, a black BMW rental, a new outfit, hairstyled sharp, and the gifts, an iPad for Mom, a console for Sandra's kids, a spa package for Beverly, kitchen appliances for Ronald and Peggy. I told myself it wasn't showing off. It was proof I cared. The night before my flight, I called my best friend, Louise. Taylor, success doesn't change people overnight, she warned. I brushed it off. They'll have to respect me now. But even as I said it, doubt lingered. The driveway felt smaller than I remembered, the house older. But my heart still raced. Mom hugged me at the door. You look professional, she said. I forced a smile. Sandra greeted me with chaos. 3 kids yelling, toys scattered. Her hug was quick, distracted. Kids, say hi to Aunt Taylor. They muttered greetings and ran off. Beverly arrived in scrubs. She smiled, but her tone cut. First-class flight, huh? Aren't you fancy now? Ronald, at least, was warm. Good to see you, he said, introducing me proudly to Peggy. She's the one who made it in Chicago. For a moment, my chest eased. At least someone was proud. The gifts landed with mixed reactions. Sandra said too much. Beverly muttered she had no time for a spa. Mom stared at the iPad like it didn't belong to her. Only Ronald's gratitude felt real. Later, when Beverly set the table, I noticed something. 7 chairs. 8 people. You missed a place, I said lightly. She shrugged. Oh, the kids are in the living room. Just grab the kitchen stool. The stool. The one from our childhood. Barely tall enough to reach the table. I froze, heat rising in my neck. Was it careless or deliberate? Either way, the message landed. I forced a smile. Sure, the stool is fine. As everyone else settled, I perched lower, slightly outside the circle. Conversation flowed easily. Sandra's PTA meeting, Beverly's patients, Ronald's projects. Mom beamed with pride at all of it. I waited for someone to ask about me. No one did. And then came the chair, the smallest one in the kitchen. Dinner began with choreography I knew by heart. Sandra's kids laughed in the living room. Beverly scrolled her phone. Mom watched in silence. I sat lower than everyone on the kitchen stool, close enough to hear, too far to belong. Conversation flowed without me. PTA schedules, a patient who pulled through, Ronald's project. Mom praised them like trophies. I waited for an opening. So, I have news, I said. Polite silence. My team just finished a campaign bringing 200 new manufacturing jobs to Ohio and Michigan. That's nice, Beverly said. Money isn't everything, Mom added. Sandra nodded. Some people forget what matters. Heat climbed my neck. This isn't about money, I said. It's about families, impact. Sandra's smile was thin. There's a difference between caring about people and caring about profit. Something split inside me. Maybe it was time to tell them how I'd been paying for this seat all along. Since we're talking about caring, I said softly. I've been covering Mom's bills for 2 years. Chairs scraped. Forks froze. Mom blinked. What are you talking about? The electric, the internet, groceries, I said. And the rent. Beverly frowned. Rent? Mom owns this house. No, I said. She hasn't for 2 years. The surgery came, the bills stacked up, and she had to sell. She's been renting it back. When she fell behind, she called me. Sandra looked at Mom. Is this true? Mom stared at the table. It wasn't supposed to be permanent. I didn't do it to buy favor, I said. I did it to keep the lights on. Ronald's voice was small. My car insurance. Was that you? I nodded. Rent $1,200. Utilities and groceries on top. Ronald $150. Sandra went pale. That's more than any of us could pay. This is why I moved, I said quietly. To build something strong enough to hold the people I love. Mom lifted her head, eyes bright with anger and shame. How dare you bring this up at dinner, she said. We are not a charity case. We were fine before you came back waving your money around. I laughed once. You are not fine. You called me crying. Her jaw clenched. I asked my daughter, not a banker. And you got both, I said. Silence took the room. A cartoon giggled down the hall. Mom stood, palms flat on the table. Her voice was low, cold, precise. You think money earns you love. You think it buys you respect. She leaned toward me. You don't deserve a seat at this table. I stood. The stool scraped tile and every head turned. You say I don't deserve a seat, I said. Okay. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a familiar contact. Mom's chin lifted. Taylor, don't you dare make a scene. This isn't a scene, I said. It's a boundary. A ring. Banking services, how may I help you? Hi, this is Taylor Morrison. I need to cancel several automatic payments. Sandra shoved back her chair. Taylor, stop. We can talk about this. We've been talking for years, I said. You weren't listening. Which payments? The rep asked. Rent to Morrison Property Management, $1,200. Effective today. Mom's knuckles whitened. You can't do this. You told me you didn't need my money, I said. Prove it. Next. Electric Ohio Edison, $300, internet $80. Grocery allowance to Martha Morrison, $400. Beverly reached for my phone. I shifted back. Don't, I said. You wanted honesty. This is honesty. Ronald's voice was small. My insurance? $150, I said into the phone. Cancel that too. The cartoon in the living room kept laughing. No one else did. Sandra whispered, this is cruel. No, I said. Quiet was cruel. The stool was cruel. Pretending my work didn't matter was cruel. This is clarity. I looked at my mother, the woman who taught me coupons and receipts, who refused help until the roof leaked. I didn't want to embarrass you, I said. I wanted to keep you safe. Her eyes watered, then hardened. The rep returned. All payments canceled, Ms. Morrison. Confirmations will follow. Thank you, I said, ending the call. I slipped the phone into my purse. No more checks, no more quiet deposits, I said. No more buying my way into a chair you never planned to set. Mom stood. You're punishing us because your feelings got hurt. My feelings, I said, kept this house warm, kept the fridge full, kept Ronald on the road. Peggy asked, what do we do now? What I did in Chicago, I said. Make a plan, share the load. I'm going to my hotel. Tomorrow I fly back to Chicago. Beverly wiped at her eyes. Taylor, wait. I waited 3 years, I said. I'm done waiting. I paused at the doorway, looked at the table, 7 chairs and a stool. For what it's worth, I added softer. I didn't want to be your banker. I wanted to be your daughter. I thought I'd ended the conversation, but the call I got 2 days later proved otherwise. 2 days later, Mom called. I went to the bank, she whispered. I saw the numbers. I didn't know. We tried splitting the bills, she added. Even with everyone pitching in, it's tight. I was angry at the wrong thing, proud of the wrong things. We finally talked about the surgery she hid, the house she sold, the shame that turned help into a secret. I told her about nights in Chicago when I worked until the city went quiet, and still felt like the girl on the kitchen stool. I'm sorry, she said. Not for the money. For making you earn love that should have been yours. If we start over, I said, it has to be honest. A week later, we did a family call. Cameras on, bills on the table. Sandra admitted jealousy. Beverly said she'd dismissed my career to protect her own choices. Ronald promised to cover his insurance and contribute each month. We made a plan. No secrets, no quiet deposits. If I helped, it would be clear, limited, agreed on. Respect wasn't a reward, it was the rule. 6 months later, I came back for Sandra's birthday. 8 places set. A real chair where the stool used to be. Mom touched it. It's yours if you want it. I sat, level with everyone. No questions about salary or titles. They asked about me. Family isn't a prize you buy or a debt you collect. It's a table you choose. And refuse to crawl under for crumbs. If you're at the doorway, wondering whether to walk back in, hear me. Love without boundaries becomes permission for harm. Generosity without respect becomes a leash. Choosing yourself isn't betrayal. It's the beginning. I don't write quiet checks anymore. I don't beg for a chair. When I sit, it's because I chose the table, and they chose me back. If this felt familiar, say, I'm here, and where you're watching from. And if you've carried a kitchen stool too long, tell me how you'll put it down.